Ultra-Processed People, The Science Behind Food That Isn't Food by Chris van Tulleken. An ultra-processed food is a food that has an ingredient that is not often in your kitchen. The food may be wrapped in plastic, it may involve deceptive marketing, and it usually has negative effects on your health. Examples of ultra-processed ingredients include emulsifiers, stabilizers, refined oils, artificial colors and flavorings, etc. The effects that these ingredients and ultra-processed food can have on our body include the increased risk of cancer, metabolic disease, mental health issues, dental decay, and a decreased gut microbiome. They can also contribute to inequality, poverty, and early death. They require destructive farming because they are dependent on fossil fuels and government subsidies, and they threaten antibiotic resistance. These big food companies want money, ching ching, so they are removing the wholesomeness from the food and putting in these cheap ingredients to extend the shelf life of the food. That way they can be transported for a longer distance and sit on the shelf longer, whether in the grocery store or in your pantry. Tulleken sees the link between the ultra-processed food and obesity. He says obesity is a commerciogenic disease. It means that it is caused by the marketing and consumption of addictive substances. We eat the food that's around us. If we are in a suburban area and have access to 6 or 7 different supermarkets, we have a lot of variety of food and produce. But if you're in the inner city, you may be in a food desert or in a very small town in a rural area. The grocery store may have been removed and replaced with a convenience store or a discount store that is filled with ultra-processed food. And unless you're growing your own produce, you may not have access to healthy food. It has also been shown that kids who are exposed to advertising eat 45% more food. And you know the food that's being advertised is not likely to be the produce. Once these ultra-processed food companies saturate an area, they start moving into poorer countries. Unfortunately, the poorer countries do not have the dentists and the medical facilities to handle all the damaging results of the UPF. The food companies will encourage that people do away with their traditional diet and eat ultra-processed food. And they find that wherever these companies and their UPF go, there is a significant increase in obesity and malnutrition. These companies, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Unilever, Nestle, and there are more, do not care about the health of the people. They just want more money. Nestle, several years ago, and they are still doing it, promote infant formula to mothers in poorer countries, saying that breastfeeding is bad and it is healthier to have infant formula. Wrong. They didn't take into effect that there is no access to clean drinking water. You need clean drinking water to add to the infant formula. And you need clean water to wash the one baby bottle that you have. And because they didn't have the clean water, babies were dying from fatal infections. Tulleken has mentioned several different recommendations in the book. The country of Chile in 2016 had the highest rate of obesity in the world. They restricted the marketing, banned UPF in schools, put a high tax on ultra-processed food, and mandated labeling. That means any food that had a high amount of sugar, sodium, or saturated fat had to be labeled so. The result? The purchases went down, and it was the children who were pleading with their parents, please don't buy that food. We don't want you to get sick and die. Tulleken also mentions that we need honest, unbiased research. When he was researching a lot of studies for this book, he found that Coca-Cola had paid for most of them. Tulleken also says that these big UPF companies should not be able to lobby or write their own legislation. He also says that we need more ecological farming. Do away with the fossil fuels, the chemicals, and grow more wholesome foods. Tulleken also says that we need more government regulation. In the 1950s, the FDA, or the Food and Drug Administration, were concerned about all the additives going into the foods. They saw the children, who had smaller bodies, eating them, and it was having an effect on them. So they required the food companies to put in applications, and then the FDA would approve them, and then they would be able to sell safe food. However, they were overwhelmed with applications. Okay, so they came up with GRAS, generally recognized as safe. It was a shorter application process. But again, they were swamped with applications. And in 2016, the FDA said, whoa, this is too much. We're going to let the big food companies self-regulate their own additives. Does that make sense? We already said they're providing deceptive marketing, they're lying to us, and we're going to trust them to produce a safe product? Tulleken wonders, who is going to look out for the citizens? Shouldn't the government be concerned about their citizens' health? These big food companies should take the responsibility or be regulated to take the responsibility to provide safe foods. Why are they being allowed to sell foods that are unsafe? This is very concerning. And Tulleken mentions that in general, people are eating a diet of 60% ultra-processed foods, and it's increasing. Thus, the title of the book, Ultra-Processed People by Chris van Tulleken. Thanks for watching. Keep reading and have a great week.